Hello, everybody. It is 2:07 p.m. Central Time on Friday, December 23rd, 2016, and welcome into the Earthquake 3D live stream. Guys, I've got some breaking news. It's not even on the USGS site yet. We have a report of a 5.0 earthquake striking in New Mexico. And I'm going to go pull the coordinates for this, but first things first, let's get over and show you guys what we're looking at here. So I've got a display capture open right now, and the way we're going to find this earthquake information, since it's not being made available to the public yet on the USGS, I'm going to take you over to the EMSC website, and we're going to look at the seismologist page, which is important. You should always check the seismologist information because for a lot of time we're not going to... Whoa. They just removed it, guys. They just removed it. They just removed the dang earthquake. It was top center. I literally have it open on my laptop downstairs. They just removed the 5.0 earthquake completely from the feed. Well, now I can't even pull the coordinates to look it up. Does anybody in chat still have the available information? Guys, this is censorship. This is what we would call censorship in science. This is when, again, when there's an earthquake that strikes that's picked up by multiple locations, multiple station feeds showing the earthquake information, and now all of a sudden we are missing the 5.0 earthquake. Now, guys, you got to understand what's going on down in Oklahoma. This is very, very interesting because in Oklahoma there is a huge fracking operation, and I mean it's one of the biggest ones in the country. And I don't know what to say about this other than to say that the earthquake's not being reported now, and they removed it from the feed means they don't want us to look it up. I need the coordinates. If somebody has the coordinates, I absolutely, positively need them as soon as possible so we can go look them up. If anybody in chat still has the screen open, please copy the coordinates, paste them into chat, and I will look them up. If I have to, I'll go downstairs on my laptop, open it up, write down the coordinates, and come back, but I think nobody will believe that. So I almost need somebody in chat here who still has the page open to give it to me. This is highly unacceptable in science. We would normally expect to go look this up, be able to at least study it as a seismologist. I understand you might not report it to the public, but you take it and remove it off the seismologist list? I'm telling you guys, there's big money involved here, and there is some big cash, and I mean billions and maybe even more, that is at stake here. Okay? Oh, does anybody have the coordinates? Does anybody have the coordinates? Please tell me you've got the coordinates. If you do, post them in chat. If not, I'm going to have to go do some legwork, try and write them down. Ah, there we go. All right. Okay, here, somebody's got them. Mr. Frizzank, our moderator, okay? He's trustworthy, guys. Mr. Frizzank sent him a Christmas gift. Okay, so 104.89 north. Well, let's see. 36.79 north, 104.89 west. You guys can see this all, right? Okay, so I'm here on my chat box. This is Mr. Frizzank 555. See, this is real time. This is exciting to me. This stuff right here is when we catch them doing something, when we catch them trying to hide an earthquake, that's when we really go push it. So, here we go. Let's go put the coordinates in, see where it resides. It may not be in a fracking operation. Who knows? I haven't looked it up yet. I just saw the earthquake pop on. Oh, look where it's taking us in. Right on top of our biggest fracking operation. There is no doubt about this, guys. Every single one of these little pads here, every single pad is a different oil well. See that? See the shadow on this? I can prove this to you. I mean, that's just one random zoom in. Every single one of them is a different oil operation. So it's not just fracking and natural gas. It's the oil patches that are struck too. Here's a side view on the shadow on one of the wells. There you go. I mean, there you go. 5.0. And you know what's so funny? Is I just called out Professor Rick Astor in Colorado just no more than an hour and a half ago, guys. I called out Rick Astor from the University of Colorado and their whole little thing they got going on down here. And what they've done is they've fractured the whole front range, at least a couple hundred miles across, at least from the foothills, starting right here. Okay, you see this? We have a few operations up here along the foothills, starting here and going. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to back this out so we're at a bird's eye view from satellite. We go all the way across over to the east. See how many there are? I got tired of marking them. There were so many. So, the fracking is different than the oil. You can see the tanks at the stations. And I would dare say at this point, it's troubling to see censorship in science. Hey! Bravo, guys! Bravo! Bravo! This is what happens when when the bright light of science is shown on the cockroaches of obfuscation. Here is the 4.5 showing up on the feed. The Europeans! The Europeans have come through and reported the 4.5. The USGS has not. So let's prove that to you. Here we are on the European page. Now let's go over to the USGS website, where they're getting paid by the oil companies. Do they have it on there? Hey, what do you know? Now it's on there too. Same time that it populates with the Europeans, same time that it populates here. So here's the question you got to ask. They deleted it from the seismologist page. They were intending to hide it because of the bright light of the shining light of investigation that's just done on this site here right now. I'm going to take you back over to the EMSE page, see if they've got it back on there. Let's hit refresh. Oh, well, what do you know? It's back on the feed. Here it is. Here it is, guys. Now it's back on the feed. I just hit refresh. There it is. It's back. Isn't that so interesting? This is why what I do on YouTube matters, man. And it doesn't matter. I don't care if I get 1 cent for it. Just the fact alone that I know that if it wasn't for the fact of us reporting it, it would be hidden. But now, take a look at it, guys. A 4.5 struck on the West Coast, 4.5 struck in the Midwest. Fracking operations. Now, you might say, oh, Dutch, that's a 4.3 on the West Coast. Well, they downgraded that. That was actually a mid-range 4 to upper 4. It went up to 4.7 to 4.9. They went with 4.3. But I think it's pretty obvious now. 4.7 did strike, followed by a 4.5 in the Midwest, 2 points less, 0.2 less. So, there it is. There it is. You guys get to see it right here, real time, before your eyes. And it only took a few hours for the pressure to transfer over to the Midwest. Now, it hit the fracking operations in Colorado. Professor Rick Astor at the border of New Mexico and Colorado. See, the fracking operation spans across the borders. In case you guys didn't see that, let me just show you really quick. So here's our state line, Colorado, New Mexico, and the oil companies didn't care about that. They apparently just keep on going, same equidistantly spaced, whether it's in New Mexico or in Colorado. So New Mexico goes all the way down, and again, we're talking about hundreds of miles. Look, I mean, it keeps going down to the south. And you might say, oh, Dutch, well, that's just at the Colorado-New Mexico border there. That's not that big of a deal, right? Wrong, guys. Look over to the west. Take a look here. Now, I'm going to zoom in here, and you're going to see a bunch of little speck marks. Do you see all these little squares? Okay, every single one of these squares is a different spot in New Mexico at the Four Corners region, at Colorado, New Mexico, Four Corners. So, and this is more fracking, wastewater injection. You can see the storage tanks and the pipes, but they do have pumps at the top as well. So this is even bigger than the Oklahoma operation, believe it or not. It's so big that you can't even really capture it. When you zoom in, you almost have to look real close because the sandy patches that they've dug out here almost look like parts of the mountains themselves. See, like here's one down here at the bottom of the hill, and here's one here at the top of the hill. Just an example, 2 of 10,000 that are here. And when I say 10,000, I'm not joking. Each spot here has thousands and thousands of wells going off in all directions. These aren't houses. People said to me, oh, those must be campsites. I'm like, no, those aren't campsites, guys. Those are frack wells. As a matter of fact, this is all Bureau of Land Management land that the government sold off to have this done. Isn't that just insane that they've done this? So, 4.5 hit after a 4.5, 4.7 hit on the West Coast. West Coast hit first, Midwest hit second. Only took a few hours' time for it to occur. Now, I don't know if you guys are paying attention to this, but for the Midwest, that's a noteworthy size earthquake. That is, a 4.5 in Colorado, that is noteworthy size. But it's not going to stop there, guys. Pressure is going to carry on over to the east. Now that Colorado's been hit, Oklahoma, you're under the gun, East Coast. And when I say the East Coast, I should say the Northeast. Northeast up here near New York and New Hampshire, going into Maine, right along the border with Quebec. You need to be on watch for 1 magnitude less than this 4.5. And that will be within 48 hours. So I would dare say by Christmas into the day after Christmas, we may see a 3 strike up in the Northeast, catch everybody off guard. Same time that's going to be happening in the next 48 hours or less, more like 24. Oklahoma, your swarm is going to go right back up. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, well, there we go. Whoa. There we go. So, have a plan. Be prepared just in case. Just so everybody knows. The last time when we saw a 4.5 strike in Oklahoma at the start of this year in 2016, it knocked down chimneys and took the facades off the fronts of houses because it was shallow. Well, here we are again. I guarantee you there's some houses around this area and somebody got some damage. This is also large enough to cause what I have termed a super fracture. I had to come up with a term to describe what happens when a larger earthquake strikes at a fracking operation or an oil pumping operation. And that earthquake shakes up other nearby wells. So I'm going to put the coordinates back in again. We're going to go zoom in on the nearest well, and I'm going to describe this to you. So I want you to imagine a 4.0 earthquake striking at one of these nearby wells. Okay, it shakes up the well. Here, let me get it on shot so you can see the shadow of the oil well. All right. So there's a shaft going down from the spot where the pump is, several thousand feet down into the ground. Now, as the pressure is coming across from the west coast, it's hitting these operations, and it causes a fracture in the well. The well is under pressure, a large amount of gas and liquid down in that tube, going several thousand feet down into the ground. You introduce pressure from the underside, and you've got liquid and gas in there, like contents under pressure in a scuba tank. Now imagine what would happen if you compress a scuba tank. Well, of course, it's going to explode, and out is going to come all the contents out into the atmosphere. Well, this is down underground. And what happens is when the pressure is introduced, it causes cracks in the casement of the well. And that lets the gas and the water escape out into shallow areas of bedrock. So when a 4 hits here, 4 or greater, hits one of these, it shakes up the other nearby wells by up to several miles out. So I want you to take a look at how many different wells are within a few miles. And let's get a line measurement tool here so we can really get a good idea. So this is kilometers. Let's, 3 kilometers. Okay, well, let's turn that into miles for my U.S. viewers. 2 miles. Now the USGS usually looks out to 6. So here's 6 miles. Everything within 6-mile radius of this would need to go have the wells inspected for cracks in the casements and pressure release. And then what's going to happen here is a super fracture. A super fracture is when one well fractures, causes a shaking that fractures other wells that fracture those wells and cause shaking, and it causes a domino effect where one large earthquake leads to other large earthquakes at these fracking operations as the different wells bust. Once they bust, I believe, and I don't have any evidence to show this yet, that the gas and toxic water, the wastewater that they're using to fracture the shale, actually escapes out into the bedrock and water table. And that's what's causing our water table pollution. Not just fracking, but the fact that the casements are cracking due to seismic stress coming from a location they never thought would happen, the West Coast. That a 4.5, 4.7 on the West Coast can cause a 4.5 to 4.7 in the Midwest within a day. It just happened today. Take a look at it. There is no question about it. It is connected. And right in between those zones, we have a volcano, by the way. So a volcano moving at the Nevada-California border. That's near Sugarloaf Peak in the unnamed volcano. Aurora crater right next to it. So volcano, and then struck on both sides as well. I think this pretty much proves my point. Now, as we look over here in the West Pacific, check it out. Japan, coast of Honshu, struck again today as expected. Last night, when we issued our warning, we said the 4.6 was not all that was going to happen at the coast of Honshu, that another similar-sized earthquake would strike, and there it is, 5.1, right at the tip of our arrow. Why a 5 there? Look at all the 5s to the south. Looks like we're losing a little bit of steam. So, instead of getting 6s, we're getting 5s. And 5 is the number. Look, 5, 5, 5, 5. All within a point of each other over the last day. That's related. The pressure is transferring to the west. Same time all that's going on, Europe, look at you. All right. So, first of all, let's look at the European feed. Let's go actually check the EMSC Mediterranean last 50 earthquakes. So this is going to show us everything into last night. So Switzerland last night, we can get all that off the map. Let's just look at what struck today. So here's pretty much today's activity. You can see it, a nice swarm of 3s and 2s across Turkey and Greece. Well, every time we know a swarm of 3s and 2s, if you add these all up together, we go up into the 4.0 range. It takes 10 3s to equal 1 4. It takes 10 2s to equal 1 3. So we have over 10 2s. We have at least 10 3s that have struck in the last 2 days, some of them going up to 3.7. So what does that mean? It means the cumulative total is there, and the potential to strike to the west of here, where all these earthquakes are right now in Turkey and Greece, we have to look to the west, which way our arrow goes, and then you'll see that brings us right into Italy. Where in Italy? Well, look where our 3.1 earthquake is. See that? And the 2.8 down in Sicily. It's only a small little area we have to watch between the 3.1 and the 2.8. And what are we looking for? We're looking for the potential of up to a 5. Now, there's several reasons we're looking for a potential up to a 5. This includes a 5 that struck a few days ago down in Greece. But if you add in all this other activity, that alone says it's going to be there. It's going to be there soon. Now, I'm going to turn on the Italy feed, the INGV. This is for Italy. And take a look. All right, there's a nice little stack of 2s currently in Norcia in central Italy, and a nice little stack of earthquakes down at Sicily. But you'll notice several of these are raised somewhat high off the globe. These are deeper earthquakes. Well, guys, that's not the only deep earthquake that struck in the past day. You may have just seen it as I was waving it around on the map, but let's bring it back up. Over here at the plate boundary in Romania, take a look at the 3.0. Here, let me zoom in on it. Okay, here is Romania, right along our S-shaped bend of the Eastern European craton. And the craton is just another word for the plate. So the Eastern European plate, and a 3.0 striking there, deep. Well, a deep 3.0 means a shallow 4.0 to 5.0 is possible within 48 hours. Add in the other deep earthquake down here below South Italy, which means a shallow 3.8 to 4.8 is possible within 48 hours. So we have 2 deep earthquakes, Italy and Romania. That's going to lead to larger movement in Europe. There's no way around it. With all the other 2s and 3s down in Greece and Turkey, it's just kind of like an additional, that's the sprinkles on top of the cake. That's letting us know, look, it's all right there. It's taking about a day longer than I thought it was going to take for it to hit, but it's rolling into you right now. So keep watch. If we get through tomorrow and everything's all good, we'll cancel the warning. But right now, I want you to be on watch for that potential of upper 4 to lower 5 in central Italy, just in case. Doesn't hurt to be prepared. And I know right here at the holidays, if you get hit with a 5, everybody's going to freak. And you shouldn't, because it's based upon what's coming in. It's not terribly large. It's just enough to get your attention when it finally hits. And a 5 is enough to cause cracks in walls. Stone structures can be weakened, but not collapse. So we're not talking about a huge earthquake yet. And I say yet because we had a couple new deep earthquakes in the past couple days, guys. So I told you last night it was all about to pick back up, right? I said, look, I wish I could give you better news for Christmas, but man, it's about to pick back up. Well, look what happened today. Yesterday's 4s were replaced by today's 5s, spreading out across the whole West Pacific. California hit, Midwest U.S. hit. If that's not a pickup, I don't know what is. So I'm not trying to be too dramatic, but we're at the holiday time where a lot of people just kind of tune out. And if anything larger hits, that's when you really need to be prepared. Just ask the people that survived the mid-range 5 to upper 5 in Oklahoma. And when I say survived, they were lucky because some people got seriously injured. One woman was knocked out of her bed. She gashed her head open with falling debris hitting her. That was in Oklahoma this year, just a few months ago. So these earthquakes, the 4s, are enough to cause slight damage to your house. Knock things off shelves, cracks in the drywall, maybe even a few cracks in the driveway or in your foundation of your house. Yes, it is that big. And that was caused by man-made pumping operations. If they wouldn't have drilled there, in Colorado and New Mexico, that pressure would have gone right across and basically ended up where I am, in the New Madrid seismic zone, where our bend in the craton is that catches all the pressure naturally. Mother Nature would have caught the pressure here and built and released here in the Midwest, South Missouri, Western Tennessee, in the New Madrid seismic zone. Instead, humans meddled, drilled so many puncture points across these locations that it is the pressure release valve. It's the release valve for the whole country. And I know the people in Colorado. I lived out there for a couple of years, guys. Several years. And I know the people in Colorado and the people in New Mexico aren't cool with that. They don't know. I bet they don't even know how many there are down there. I bet if you were to show this to people in New Mexico and Colorado, they would just absolutely crap their pants. They would be like, what? They did this, what? And I'd be like, yeah, they're injecting toxic water in each one of these. They're pumping water down in there to get gas, and they're not going to clean these up, and even if they plant trees on them when they're done, it's still not going to fix it. And I guarantee you the people in Colorado just aren't aware that the whole front range of southern Colorado has been fracked and oil drilled to a point where it's an environmental disaster and causing major earthquakes. Once they do figure it out, guess what the people in Colorado are going to have to do? They're going to have to pass a new law that allows them to do something. And same in New Mexico. You're going to have to pass a law that invalidates the previous laws that they just passed that said you can't do anything. Did you know in Oklahoma and in Texas and in Colorado that state legislatures have been literally passing laws that say that locals cannot ban or do anything about this? Taking it out of local control, saying that you have to move the whole state to be able to do these things, to stop them from doing this. So if you live in a town here, let's say you live in Segundo or Valdez, and you decide, hey, we don't want a frack well next to the playground, which they do. Look, here's one right in the middle of town, right? Okay, they'll do, right next to a playground, and if you want to dispute that, you can't stop it. The state legislature has to actually, stop them from doing a single well. You have no say. In Oklahoma, I know for certain, and in Texas, you have no say whether or not they can do it in your own town or right in your own backyard. Even if you own it. Did you know if you own the property, they can just come take it from you now? They'll offer you money for it. Isn't that wild? So, anyways, corruption, right? What we're talking about here is, I don't think anybody's shocked to find out that, when you're dealing with tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars, that corruption starts to take hold and take place. But that's what's going down right now. Just be aware, okay? So, largest earthquake to strike in New Mexico, Colorado in many months' time has now hit, and it directly follows what hit on the West Coast, which we told you about. And in the irony of ironies, in the twist of fate, just an hour and a half ago, I was on here chastising and calling out Professor Rick Astor from the University of Colorado, who's heavily involved with American Petroleum, and now the area gets hit with the earthquake. Hey, Professor Astor, guess what? You guys are responsible for destroying the front range of Colorado and causing earthquakes, brother. How about that? How about those apples, bro? You still want to come to my fundraiser and tell everybody it's wrong to donate? Professor Rick Astor? I'd like to know how much you get paid to be part of the petroleum group. bro. Since you're causing earthquakes and you guys are totally ignoring the problem, Professor Astor, I would dare say, we deserve to know how much you get paid by them. And since, my public fundraiser was fair game for you to come in and try and stop me from making money, wouldn't anybody agree that I would at least be afforded the same opportunity towards you, Professor Astor? That we could maybe possibly tell everybody that what you're doing might be a... What would be the word for that? Graft? I don't want to call it a scam. You called me a scammer and I'm not. But I would definitely say that if you're getting money from the American Petroleum and you're involved with denying the fracking earthquakes that are happening down in your neighborhood while at the same time collecting a paycheck from the people that are involved, that might be a little bit of a smoking gun, as we call it here on the YouTube. Here on the YouTubes, we consider that stuff to be a little bit conspiratorial. And it's a believable conspiracy, not one of these, not a Bigfoot or a Loch Ness monster. I'm more talking about a big oil and a frackness monster. So, all right, there we go. There's your update. Largest earthquake to strike in the Midwest in a while has now hit, and it directly follows a similar-sized earthquake on the West Coast. So, last night, we issued the warning for the West Coast, right where the arrow is. You see where the arrow is on the West Coast, where the 4.3 is. Well, we issued a warning from the tip of that arrow going into California, coast of Oregon, coast of California, but it's a magnitude less than what I was looking for. So if I'm looking for upper 5 to 6, a mid-range 4 hit, then a mid-range 4 follows up in Oklahoma or in Colorado at the New Mexico border, right next to Oklahoma. So look at it, pay attention to it. If you live in the Midwest, you had a warning. Your warnings always are when the West Coast gets hit. So Midwest, you follow up the West Coast. Sometimes within a few hours, like today, within 12 hours. All right, so I'll be back. I'll be watching. Guys, much love. Merry Christmas if you celebrate the holiday. If you don't, have a good one. Have a good one. Just chill out. Have a good day, a couple days, and of course, we'll be here if anything else goes down.